Well, the Buckeyes have played one borderline high school team after another and are now going to have to play a real serious team in Oregon. Does it mean that there's an opportunity for Ohio State to slip up? You bet it does. Hello, everybody. You're listening to the College Sports Superfan. Today, we're talking about the biggest game of the week, no doubt about it. It's number 2 Ohio State at number 3 Oregon. So let's just jump right into this. Super excited about it. Big time nighttime game in Eugene. Okay, let's start with the road team Buckeyes. Super, super, super dominant this season, scoring 46 points per game and allowing 6.8 points per game. But key point, as why I just said in the intro there, is that their competition has not been the best. Let's just keep it 100. I think Ohio State fans should even admit this. The competition has not been the best so far. The best team that Ohio State has played up to this point was Iowa this past weekend. And you saw some of the struggles start to come about. But of course, Ohio State still dominated the Hawkeyes and still won that game comfortably. So there is a reason. I mean, they deservedly are the number 2 team in the country, but there was some concerns there. They have also gotten a lot better about cleaning up penalties throughout the season. This is one thing I wanted to compliment Ohio State on is in their first game of the year against Akron, they committed 7 penalties. Every single game since, it's gotten a little bit better. And now against Iowa, they only committed 1 penalty the entire game. So Ohio State is becoming more well disciplined as the season is going on, even though they're facing better competition. So that is a really good sign for Ohio State and this Ohio State coaching staff. Just wanted to give them some compliments on that. Quarterback Will Howard. The question was, is he going to be better than Kyle McCord, or is he just going to be Kyle McCord 2.0 or worse? Well, so far, one thing's for certain is that Will Howard has been pretty good. He's got 2,148 passing yards on a 71% completion percentage, 12 touchdown passes with only 3 interceptions, plus 64 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. So yeah, Will Howard's been pretty good. I would say up to this point he has been better than Kyle McCord. I don't have the direct stat comparison to what McCord had at this point last season, but I got a good feeling that Howard's numbers are going to be better than that. And the running back room, they've got 2 elite running backs. They took in Quinshawn Judkins from Ole Miss. He has 468 yards, which is 7.8 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns. And behind him, they have the experienced veteran Travion Henderson, who hasn't been too bad himself. He's got 337 yards, which is 8 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. So these 2 guys have just been incredible. A true 1-2 punch. Basically reminds me of what Michigan had with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, is essentially what Ohio State has this year with Quinshawn Judkins and Travion Henderson. And at receiver, they have been fantastic. They've got one of the best receiver coaches in the country. So, of course, he continues to recruit and improve elite talent. They have Emeka Egbuka, the main leader, has 433 yards and 5 touchdowns. Definitely going to be the next in the long line of Ohio State receivers that are going to go right into the NFL. They also have a sensational freshman. Everybody can't stop talking about Jeremiah Smith, but it's with good reason. He has 453 yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. He's got a fumble, but he also has a rushing touchdown. And he had this amazing one-handed catch against Iowa as well that just got played over and over again. This kid, the freshman, is really, really, really good. They've got another young star receiver in Carnell Tate, who's 219 yards and a touchdown. So he's a really good third option as well. So overall, Howard's got some good weapons. The running back room is really solid. I feel like Ohio State still needs, another really solid receiver option for some bigger games down the line, but I'm sure one of them will emerge. On defense, their defense is absolutely elite, and this is part of what makes Ohio State so special this season. They have On the defensive line, Ty Hamilton, who has 18 tackles, Jack Sawyer, who has 17 tackles with 2.5 sacks and a fumble recovery, JT Tuamolo, who has 12 tackles and 3 sacks. So that's a really solid defensive line. There's a couple of elite guys, of course. All of those guys could potentially be in the NFL, particularly Sawyer and JT. And then at linebacker, they have Arvell Reese, who has 17 tackles, CJ Hicks, who has 14 tackles, Cody Simon, who has 15 tackles, and a fumble recovery. So this isn't the best linebacking group that I've ever seen. Again, it's solid. It's got a really deep rotation, which is good. But I would overall say I wish there was another guy who was really like a superstar linebacker. And I just feel like Ohio State is missing that guy. And that's a critical part to be a leader of this defense. So that's a bit of a concern. At defensive back, though, they might have arguably the best secondary in the entire country. They've got so many star players that are on the secondary. Denzel Burke has 15 tackles and 2 interceptions. Davison Igbinosun has 13 tackles and an interception. Caleb Downs, arguably the most talented out of all of them, has 17 tackles with 3.5 tackles for a loss. Sonny Styles has 30 tackles and a fumble recovery. And then Lathan Ransom, which, fun fact about Lathan Ransom, he played against Oregon in 2021. So he's the one player on both of these teams, I'm pretty certain, that played a key role in their last matchup 3 years ago. So that's just a fun fact about Lathan Ransom. So he's personally looking for revenge in this game. But he has 22 tackles and also a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So this secondary, elite, one of the best secondaries in the country. Linebacking group, a little bit of a concern. Defensive line, pretty solid. Could be a little bit better, but very, very solid and has some very talented guys. As for the Oregon Ducks, let's talk about this team. Dillon Gabriel has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's got 1,449 passing yards with a 79% completion percentage. 79. 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He also has 71 rushing yards with 3 touchdowns, but he has fumbled the ball twice. So I would expect his touchdown numbers to be a little bit higher, but overall, he has been one of the most elite and one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the country, no doubt about it. And at running back, they've got an elite, great running back in Jordan James, who has 552 yards, which is 6.3 yards per carry, plus 5 touchdowns. And behind him, there's a couple of solid guys like Noah Whittington to help with the rotation there as well. At wide receiver, I would say they've got a lot of good players. I feel like it's been slightly underwhelming from some of them, but overall, it's still been a very good room led by veteran Tez Johnson, who has 395 yards, 5 touchdowns. Evan Stewart, who has 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's been a bit underwhelming, but I know had some injury concerns, could still definitely work his way back up. And then Trayshawn Holden, he's been really good, 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then the tight end Terrence Ferguson has 259 yards himself. But Tez Johnson definitely leads this group. And then let's talk about the Oregon defense. Dan Lanning, of course, being a defensive mind himself, coming over from Georgia, where he was the defensive coordinator. Of course, he was going to fix up this Oregon defense, and that he absolutely has. On the defensive line, they have Jordan Birch, 19 tackles, 5 sacks, and a fumble recovery. He came in from South Carolina. Mateo Uyungule, obviously DJ's brother, has 13 tackles with 3.5 sacks. They have Derek Harmon, who has 19 tackles and 3 sacks. So that's a very good defensive line. Honestly, production-wise, I would say maybe slightly better than Ohio State. And linebacker, I would say the linebacking group for Oregon is a little bit better than Ohio State as well. Bryce Bocher, who's from Eugene, has 32 tackles and an interception. And Titum Tuioti has 19 tackles, So actually, a linebacker group, Ohio State's linebacker group is a little bit deeper, but Oregon has that true superstar in Bryce Boucher. So, it does kind of balance out, but I would say I think it's better to have that true veteran, that true captain there leading that linebacker group. So I would give Oregon the slight edge there. And defensive back, they've got a really great secondary as well. But again, I think Ohio State arguably has the best one. So, of course, I'm still going to give the Buckeyes the edge there. But Oregon's secondary is really, really good. Tysheem Johnson has 19 tackles and an interception. Brandon Johnson has 16 tackles and an interception. Kobe Savage has 18 tackles, and Nico Reed has 12 tackles and an interception. So the Ducks secondary and the defense overall has gotten a lot better. Not too bad. And right now, Ohio State on the road, give me my nighttime game. College game days here. It's the game of the week. Ohio State is favored by 3 points. Let's get into some of the history of this series. There actually is more history between Ohio State and Oregon than you might think. The Buckeyes overall have dominated this matchup historically. They lead the all-time series 9-1. So believe it or not, they've actually played each other 10 previous times. This is their 11th meeting. Ohio State leads 9-1, but that one loss was the 2021 game that you're seeing the highlights here of. Oregon won that game 35-28 in Columbus. That was the most recent matchup between these two. So Oregon technically has the winning streak. But before that, Ohio State won the first 9 games between each other. They first met in the 1958 Rose Bowl, where Ohio State won 10-7. They also played in the 2010 Rose Bowl game, where Ohio State won 26-17. And then they also played famously in the 2015 College Football Playoff National Championship game. The first ever college football playoff national championship game was in Arlington, Texas, and Ohio State won relatively comfortably 42-20. So, what do I think is going to happen here between these two, between these new Big Ten rivals? I guess you could say they're both currently at the top of the conference, and whoever wins this game almost assuredly, now of course there's still the rest of the season, but almost assuredly will probably be in the Big Ten championship game at least. So this is a massive, massive game for the Big Ten standings. What do I believe? Well, overall, I do think Ohio State, just on both sides of the ball, does have more talent. I think this defense is arguably one of the best defenses, maybe the best defense in the entire country. And overall, I think Oregon hasn't played the greatest of competition up to this point. Even though I said that about Ohio State, the same is true about the Oregon Ducks. I mean, basically the best team that they've played up to this point is Boise State, who's really, really good, but that one came really, really close, and that was a nighttime game in Eugene as well. So I believe Ohio State can go in there and win this game by 3. So I'm agreeing completely with the spread. I got the Buckeyes winning this one on the road by 3. Will Howard will limit the mistakes. They'll run the game well. The defense will make the stops they have to stop. And ultimately, Ohio State just has a little bit more talent. I think they're going to get another signature win for their team and their program and continue to move towards getting to the Big Ten championship and getting another signature win for head coach Ryan Day. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching the College Sports Superfan. Don't go away just yet because we also have Bunley's pick that she's going to make. She's going to choose between, a couple of vegetables here, one that will represent Oregon, one that will represent Ohio State. So that'll be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that here. And then also stay tuned for the fan game of the week coming out later on this week. Thank you all so much. Please like and subscribe. And these are the 2 choices: the basil leaf to represent Oregon and the red pepper to represent Ohio State. Here are the 2 choices, Miss Bunley. Oh my gosh, she's going right for the pepper. But is she? Oh my gosh, she is going to take it. Wow. Bunley picks the red pepper representing Ohio State. Oh my goodness, look at that Bunners go. And there you have it. Bunley has picked Ohio State to beat Oregon. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.